gece.
We are talking Sputnik. This one is directed by Egor Abramenko and is a Russian dark sci-fi movie. We've seen quite a few kind of science fiction and horror movies come out from Russia within the last few years. All have been pretty high quality, to be fair. Not so many whimsical comedies coming from Russia there, I'm noticing. What does that say about that country, eh? But anyway, let's talk about Sputnik. So, a science fiction movie that will fit right at home, I feel, in the Alien and Prometheus franchise. It probably is a little bit like the movie Life, and I say probably because I haven't actually seen that film, but it does seem like it would be, again, a comparable piece to that movie. So it's actually a Cold War era set in the mid-1980s. And then we have this kind of manned spacecraft crashing down to Earth from obviously outer space, the two-man spacecraft. One of the cosmonauts is killed. The other one seems to be injured, and he is taken to a medical facility. And then we introduce this kind of female psychiatrist, and she is brought in to do an assessment. But unbeknownst to her, this cosmonaut seems to be have some type of alien symbiotic parasite living within him that exits his body overnight, and is pretty dangerous, and it's relatively large when it's out of his body. What will happen? You have to watch the movie to find out. Anyway, so there you go. That's your basic plot synopsis. Let's talk about what works. So as I've mentioned, this is like a high quality movie with good production values. Lots of kind of expansive sets and things like this, decent special effects, and a dark and serious tone. So if that's the kind of thing you'd like, then this is definitely one to check out. Like I've mentioned at the beginning of the video, this does feel like it would sit right at home next to Alien and like Prometheus and films of that ilk, although it's obviously nothing to do with that officially. So, let's talk about the special effects first of all. I feel that the alien creature that we've got here is unique looking, but similar enough to other things that we've seen. It almost reminds me of a larger face hugger mixed in with the aliens from Independence Day. It's a pretty horrific looking thing, although it's not the way they've kind of designed it. It's still kind of smaller than a human, for example. But still looks like, pretty kind of terrifying at the same sort of time. Very, very alien looking, ultimately. So I really enjoyed the kind of the creature effects here. Like I said, it's that CGI creation, but it's done to a decent standard. I really liked our female protagonist here. I like the way that she's portrayed to be an absolute consummate professional and very, very good at her job. And we see kind of like, the way she operates is slightly off book, and that's basically why she's been brought on board. And I like the portrayal of someone who's very good at their jobs. I feel too many films I've seen where, we have some type of professional brought on board that just acts unprofessionally. It's one of my sort of bugbears when I watch movies and things like, when you have the paranormal investigators that just fanny around all the time. But I like it when we see portrayals of professionals acting professionally. And we get the impression that although she's quite stoic on the outside, and she does have layers, and we kind of learn a little bit more about her humanity and her relationship with the surviving cosmonaut. It's kind of it doesn't go into a full-on romance or anything, but it's certainly you see the relationship kind of building, which I think was good. I actually quite like some of the supporting cast here. For example, we have like another doctor who is almost threatened by this female psychiatrist's professionalism, and I just thought initially he seemed quite annoying, but he has actually quite a good arc within the movie, and I also quite liked the commanding officer that's got a guy in charge of this research base. Again, he's good character. He seems like he's pretty, has layers. He seems both professional, but also somewhat underhanded as well. So we're getting a lot of kind of gradients in regards to decent character development, which I think is very impressive. But especially when you're watching a foreign language movie, you're really getting the kind of the emotional beats of of the characters there. The story itself, I think, is a slower burn. It's not particularly action-packed, but when we do see violence on screen, I think it is done to a pretty gory standard. This creature does kill, and it kills in a quite a spectacularly gory fashion. And then we have a kind of, a fairly kind of extended action sequence towards the end of the movie. But the movie just punctuated with a few kind of more horror elements here and there when we kind of see the creature and it does things to people. Let me just say that. Like I've said, I think the look of the movie is just like it just looks really good. It looks very oppressive in this kind of this kind of military compound where this kind of cosmonaut is being kept. But we do see, some outside shots, lots of kind of like military types dressed up, lots of kind of extras in the movie as well. So it does look like it has a good production value. And the story is very interesting. However, that brings me into the negatives here. I think this movie is longer than it needs to be. Certainly for Western audiences, I have noticed with Russian films, they do tend to be a little bit on the long side. That may be somewhat typical for a Russian movie, but to me it felt maybe 15 to 20 minutes a little bit too long. Certainly for what I think American and like UK audiences and Western audiences may be kind of used to, and you do feel there is a little bit of fat that could have been trimmed off here and there in regards to some of the kind of the story elements that maybe kind of slows it down. Do I have any other issues with this? Two more, I would say. I think we do see our cosmonauts in space at the beginning of the movie, and then we see the initial encounter with the alien, but that's where I have a problem with maybe story-wise. I feel that's glossed over. The circumstances of which the alien comes into contact with these cosmonauts, I feel, needed some more context to it, because we see very little of it, and it seems to be in deep space, so there's obviously no atmosphere. And again, I think that needed to be addressed, which isn't within the movie. So I had a little bit of an issue with maybe that, and that kind of, I would guess that ties into my next issue. That's logic issues, because obviously we're not seeing where this thing came from. I don't think we need to see the origin, but just how it ended up on, literally come into contact with these cosmonauts here, especially because it's deep space. There's obviously again no atmosphere. But also some of the decisions made by some of the characters, which is my next point. I don't know if I was 100% buying some of the decisions. And it's interesting because I think the characters are depicted to be very smart within the film. But then they just seem to have somewhat kind of illogical decisions. And I'm assuming that the reason for that is because the plot wanted to go into a particular area. They kind of needed to move the plot along, so people had to make decisions for certain things to happen. But to me, it sort of seemed to betray some of the kind of the character choices that have been made previously in some of the character development, where some people have made some somewhat questionable decisions here. I think some people may be put off by the some of the kind of extraneous plot lines. A cosmonaut has a son, and like a estranged son, and we do see some scenes with him, which I don't know if were completely necessary, to be honest with you. And also maybe the kind of like, although I said it's not a full-on romance, it kind of veers into that, which I think maybe would put some people off, because it was, you would maybe have liked to see the relationship kept 100% professional. But overall, this is a very well-made science fiction movie, and I think if you are a fan of movies like Alien, it's more Prometheus, that sort of thing, then I think this is definitely one to watch. Obviously, it being Russian, it is I watched a subtitled version, but you maybe have to get a dubbed version. But to let that put you off, because it is a watchable movie with really good acting, and a fantastically interesting premise, and a very scary yet bloodthirsty alien. Can I give this one a 7 out of 10? Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.